Cablevision as a result of the severe tornado disaster that has occurred in the city in the past 24 hours. Exactly now 12 hours ago from this time, at about midnight, a tornado has brought destruction and loss of life and injury to citizens of West Bend. This is a special broadcast in response to that emergency weather situation. We have the mayor of the city of West Bend with us in our studios. Behind us on the wall is a map of the city of West Bend, and we'll be showing you, the Cablevision viewers, where the tornado has caused the damage in the community. Mayor Jack Pick, thank you for being here. You've been up all night.
That's right, Don. Been up since 6 o'clock Friday morning, I believe. And we've got the thing under real good control at this time, I would say. You want to look
When did first word reach you?
Well, the first, immediately after the siren was sounded, the police department called me at my home, and I put on my jacket and went up there. And been up there most of the time since then.
I think everyone will be asking, could there and should there have been more warning? It appears, based on first reports, and we have the city administrator here with us at the studios to talk about that as well, that no one, including the Weather Service, the city officials, were aware that a tornado was anywhere in the vicinity. Is that correct?
Well, from all the knowledge I have, Don, nothing could have been done any sooner than it was done. There just wasn't any warning indicative of anything than a severe thunderstorm. And suddenly there was a touchdown, and immediately the sirens were sounded. And the same goes for the other communities in the county, I understand.
This would then have to be classified certainly as an act of God.
It certainly was.
And many of the citizens of West Bend have been not only suffered loss of property, but loss of life and personal injury. Could you assess for us what the damage picture is as of noon?
Well, at this time, and as a result of a survey made this morning, Chief Skidmore and John Meyer and myself toured the entire area. We counted 36 dwellings, and this includes several multifamily dwellings. Total losses, we found 47 partially damaged homes. We found about 40 automobiles, total losses. 3 campers and 2 boats and so on. Number of outbuildings and so forth. The Moraine Park Technical Institute is a shambles, and it appears to me, I just believe that it's got to be a minimum of $2 million damage there alone, which when doing a little arithmetic brings the entire disaster in dollar damages to, in my opinion, in the area of $7 to $10 million at this time. Of course, there's a lot of hidden damage. We don't know how much personality is involved, how much the contents is going to amount to, and there are so many factors that could. Chief Skidmore thinks perhaps it's as high as $15 million.
What about the people? Have all the people been accounted for as of noon?
As of the time we left up there to come down here, Don, we were quite well satisfied that there are no persons still to be found. And that leaves the death toll at 3, which in itself is almost a miraculous thing. If you look at the damage is just devastating.
During this broadcast, we're going to show some of that damage. We have actual videotape footage taken in the area hit by the tornado, as well as coverage of the MPTI building. We also were up in an airplane with our cameras this morning, and the winds were gusting up to 44 miles an hour, and it was difficult, almost impossible, to take useful television pictures, so we will not have the aerial pictures that we had hoped to have. What we were able to see from the air was very clearly the path of the tornado, where it entered the northwest corner of the city and then just cut across the Barton area, going directly to MPTI, skipping there across the river, and even demolishing some homes on the other side of the river.
Yeah, that's correct. It did go on beyond the technical school and to Young America. There's some damage up there, and I understand up as far as Boltonville. So that there is some damage beyond the city limits of West Bend.
For those who have heeded the warnings of public officials and have not gone into the area and have stayed away, let's use the map on the back wall, and Mayor Pick, use the advantage of your height. If you could go to the map behind us and point, if you would, and describe where the tornado entered the city and the streets that it cut across. If you could talk, and up in the corner in the area there where you see the yellow is generally the area, I think, where the storm began.
Yes, I believe that this was the area of the original touchdown, right in this area, and it cut right on through here on a sort of on a bias, you might say, right on through the technical school up here. And is this where, John? Can you see? Is this a little higher up in here? I can't reach quite that high, but it cut across generally right through here.
Which streets would those be?
Well, there's Roosevelt and Jefferson and
Green, Sunset, Patricia Drive.
Yeah, Sunset Ridge, and I'm not sure. During the darkness of the night, it was hard to tell where you were. You just knew you were in a terrible mess. And now, as daylight approached this morning, we were hopeful of having a nice, calm, clear day. That's the way it looked at 5 o'clock this morning, but things changed rapidly around 7:30, 8 o'clock. I talked to the governor this morning in Madison over the telephone, and gave him a synopsis of the situation. Of course, I asked him whether he felt we would be entitled to disaster treatment, and he said that very likely, that it was almost a certainty that West Bend would get some federal aid, and that he would declare it a disaster area. He said that he would send over Joe LaFleur, the state emergency coordinator, in a helicopter later this morning if the wind died down. But the wind hasn't died down, and I think the last we heard was that Joe was on his way over by automobile. But they will survey the situation and make a recommendation to the governor's office, and following that, if the governor does what he thinks is most likely, and that is to declare it a disaster area, we would be in line for federal aid up to perhaps 75%, to use his words, of the amount of the public damage. Now, this doesn't include the private homes. Presumably, everyone who owns a home in that area and apartment buildings are covered by insurance. But then there's always the problem of underinsurance, and that won't be known, of course, until the adjusters and appraisers have a good look. Okay.
Let's switch now, if we may, to our videotape, and with the assistance of the mayor and the city administrator, John Meyer, describe some of the scenes that you are about to see. Mayor Pick, if you would sit here, and John Meyer, if you would bring a chair with us here. We see Mr. Meyer at about 6 o'clock this morning speaking to the Cablevision staff in the area. We're going to be showing you now for the next several minutes some shots taken live this morning at the scene of the tornado damage on the north side of West Bend. John Meyer has joined us here in the studio. John, tell us how your night began.
The first I knew of this disaster was when the sirens went off. Approximately 2 minutes later, the police chief called me and picked me up on the way, and we've been in the scene ever since.
The viewers of Cablevision were notified on the emergency alert system by a member of the Cablevision staff, Tim Donlinger, and Tim placed a notice on the Cablevision system at about 12:15. The time of the tornado is roughly placed at about 12:10, 12:15, somewhere in that area, John.
Yes, that's correct.
We see very vividly here these pictures show what words cannot describe. We see the isolated play swing in the backyard of a home. John, can you pick up generally what neighborhood this is in and some of your feelings? So we see a car here. Obviously, the garage was literally blown away from around the car, and the house next to it completely demolished. You have been at this scene all morning. Tell us your reflections on these pictures.
This is a very difficult scene to reflect upon because this is what we're looking at is the home of Ronnie Schlefke, who he is an employee of the fire department, and when he arrived here, he found his son dead, and believe me, the entire city and their hearts just go out to him.
This child was found in the rubble of the home. A brother, I believe, escaped. And could you report the extent of the brother's injuries?
I don't know what his extent of his injuries. I know that he's safe, and Ron and his wife are safe, and I don't know how they're going to deal with this. But.
Well, here we see the sun coming up this morning. At about 6 o'clock, these pictures were taken. The day dawned, a bright and sunny, clear day. At noon today, when this special broadcast began, the sky had clouded over, and the Milwaukee airport reports to Cablevision on our weather system that the winds are 25 miles an hour with gusts up to 44 and even peaking at times at 50 miles an hour. More scenes of personal property and homes, fire department crews surveying through the damage of this home. Obviously, the foundation we see here with the car there, the tremendous power of a tornado, very obvious as a result of these pictures. Mayor Pick, any thoughts as you're watching this along with our viewers?
Well, not really. Boy, the pictures certainly tell a story we were looking at all night and this morning. I will say this, that the crews that have been working since sunrise have done just a remarkable job of cleaning up. The streets are clean now, and the people are boarding up their windows, and they're placing the rubble out in the parkways so that it can be picked up by the various crews. We've had a tremendous response from our West Bend industries and others offering aid of every type, and from our towns around here. The Raleigh Center called this morning, said their trucks were available. Yars called and said they've had a lot of equipment down there we could use, send them up with the crews. West Bend Company called. So it's been a wonderful response, and when you stop to think about the coordination efforts, it's really gives you a warm feeling about West Bend and what can be done here when we have to.
City Administrator John Meyer.
The communications have been excellent all night. as Jack mentioned, most of the crews arrived at dawn. Because there were no street lights up there, we needed to have daylight in order to work. Our main thrust was to keep the streets open and clean, so that in case there was any fire or any other sort of disaster, the emergency vehicles could get through, get to the fire hydrants. We've been very conscious of the fire hydrants. The lift station on that end of town has been monitored completely the entire period.
John, the attention is to these homes that we're looking at that have been totally destroyed. What about the homes that we can see in the background? Did the suction of the tornado cause damage that we cannot see to those homes that do not appear to be damaged?
As the mayor mentioned, there's 37 homes totally damaged and 45. The damage is of that 45 is in many cases half the house. These pictures are very good, but they do not give the devastation any justice that is down there.
We continue to see now homes that have been totally destroyed. I assume that property owners were permitted to go through and try to recover any personal possessions?
That's correct. What we're attempting to do is, first of all, the police chief enforce emergency rules. We tag everybody that comes in, and only property owners are let in there, plus workers. We're keeping the streets clean and picking up what's on the terrace at this point, letting the property owners go through their possessions, and in turn then hauling the debris out to the street. The crews are just continuously going around and around the blocks, picking up whatever they can that's at the street. We're staying completely off the premises where at all possible that we can, in order to give the people the chance to go in and recover some of their possessions.
Watching these pictures simply cannot help those of us who have not been at the scene be very touched, watching these people literally trying to pick up what remains of their life. Your hearts and your feeling has to go out to them. What about these people, these homeowners, the residents of these totally destroyed homes? Jack, where will they stay, and what arrangements have been made for them?
Well, I can't give you any specific information. Just from the bits I've heard in the past few hours, it appears that they will be moving in with relatives and neighbors and friends, at least temporarily, and obviously their homes aren't going to be livable for months at the earliest. And it's going to take a few weeks to even get clear out in order to start rebuilding.
City Administrator John Meyer, do you have any special emergency notices for property owners in this area? Any special city policies that you expect to follow in the next few days, in the next few weeks?
Again, the city is going to assist in every way possible to clean this disaster up, and we are still going to continue our policy of picking up whatever possible at the curb. There are large things that we will have to come in on the property, but right now we would like to have the property owner have a chance to get in and get his possessions back. I would like to add, again, just a plea to the residents of the city of West Bend. If you go up there, you're going to cause problems. It'd be confusion. Let's let the people in there that need to be in there. You get in the way of our trucks, our crews, and the people that own these possessions. Please stay out of the area.
Has this been a problem, John?
We have had gapers all day, so please stay out of the area.
We're going to ask Mark Landvater to come to the microphone. Mark and his crew took many of these pictures. Mark, we're looking now at a car on top of a car, and would you describe for us some of these pictures at dawn this morning, which you have prepared for our viewers?
Yes, Don. I spent a good 3 or 4 hours at the scene this morning, just walking around in utter amazement at the things in front of me and my camera. It's obvious to me that the estimates of damage are all well-founded, and I hope that's all it is. But from looking around, I tend to concur with Jim Skidmore, who thinks it's much worse than anyone's estimated. As an example of the strange things that happen in a tornado, pictures hanging beautifully on a wall where there is no outer wall left. I have a difficult time trying to explain what was in front of me. I have seen things I've never seen before, and I have seen them in a new light. I had no idea that 2x8 timbers could be driven a foot into the ground by the wind. I had no idea at all. I had no idea that people could be back, and I observed some people trying to recover things from their residences, actually joking about it and keeping their good humor about them. And marvelous spirit out there of people helping one another and knowing they're all in it together, and being more than willing to share a smile even under the circumstances they find themselves in. In the many hours I was out there, I spoke to a number of the residences and people from the area who observed it, or people who were there as it happened. I spoke to one gentleman later in this film. The gentleman was down in his recreation room with guests watching television last night, heard a high wind developing, had a 17-year-old daughter upstairs sleeping, and a 5-month-old son on an outer wall in his bedroom asleep in his crib. He heard the wind, ran up the stairs, found his daughter and made sure that she was all right, and upon opening the door to his son's room, finally noticed that there was no longer a roof on the house nor walls on the outer walls, and found his son's crib gone, his son gone. Looked all over. Obviously, in a position like that, I don't know what I would do. Got his daughter down the stairs and out of the rubble, and found his 5-month-old son on the front lawn crying, perfectly healthy but bruised and cut from flying glass and whatnot. I spoke to one gentleman who was a good block and a half away from the path of the tornado. Virtually all the windows in his home were sucked out completely. There isn't a piece of glass left in it. Most of his drapes are gone, just from the sheer force of it a block and a half away. He told me simply, I'd never been through anything like this in my life, and certainly not looking forward to doing it a second time. The power of the tornado was astounding. It did things to vehicles that, in homes obviously, but it did things that you wouldn't expect. One person's home was completely leveled, and both of their cars had been parked on the street in front of their home. The cars were, well, here's an example of the power of that wind. There's a 2x4 driven directly into the garage wall. It looked like a diving board mounted right on the side of the building with no pool underneath. His family had 2 cars parked in front of their home, and the 2 cars were as much as a half a block away. One of them was clear in the backyard, upside down, completely demolished. Another one of them was about 2 or 3 doors up the street, sitting in someone else's driveway. That's not where he left it when he went in the house that night. It's absolutely astonishing to me that people maintain the good spirits they've maintained. I am encouraged, I guess, by human nature.
In watching the scene here, one also has to be somewhat in awe that more people did not lose their lives. The destruction is total. It is complete, and it is miraculous to wonder how people survived, realizing Mayor Pick that 35 homes have been totally leveled. How were the people able to live through having their homes totally destroyed and yet walking away from it?
I don't know. I'm just as puzzled and mystified as anyone else. I keep shaking my head and saying, how could it be? I just don't know. I have never seen firsthand this type of thing in my life. And I guess one other comment, exploring the past history of disasters in West Bend, there is no record of a tornado striking in the city of West Bend from the time it was founded back in the 1840s.
City Administrator John Meyer, what are your thoughts? How did the people walk away from this, whose homes have been leveled and that you have been walking through and surveying for the last many hours?
I don't know, Don. I honestly don't know. Some of the devastation is just unbelievable. How anyone got out of those homes I don't know.
Mark Landvater, could you describe the people that we see on the TV now?
This is the gentleman I spoke to whose windows suddenly disappeared a block and a half away from the actual path of the tornado last night. His description to me of what he felt was essentially that it was like a freight train coming out of nowhere and disappearing into nowhere. Everyone I spoke to had pretty much the same impression, that it happened so fast that they hardly had time to clear their heads before they found themselves in the midst of a mess.
To repeat, the tornado struck shortly after midnight. It came from the southwest, moved across the northwest corner of the city of West Bend in the Barton area, and has left a path of destruction in its wake, both in terms of property damage and injury and loss of life. As the mayor has explained, the first tornado in the history of West Bend. Even though this is the first, certainly last year's and the last few years, it seems that the weather has been tempting us and taunting us, and it's a little ironic, I have to say, that on the last day of Wisconsin Tornado Alert Week, in which the media, the newspapers, the radio stations, and cable television made special announcements to the public about the possibility of the tornado season, one actually came to West Bend. So people have been, I have observed, nervous about tornadoes for the last few years, Mayor Pick.
Well, I think you're right, Don. There has seemed to be a greater awareness of the tornado problem in recent years. The radio stations in Chicago and Milwaukee, I've noticed, as well as the television stations, have placed more emphasis on educating the public. Of course, as you say, 140 years, and it seemed to be sneaking up on us, so to speak. Well, we've got it now, and thank the Lord, we were fortunate enough to have only 3 tragedies.
John Meyer?
Don, we'd certainly be remiss if we didn't, at this point out to the citizens of West Bend the efforts that were made not only by the mayor, Alderman Mike Miller, the police chief, the fire chief, the entire departments, the communities in related areas. Ozaki County has arrived. Fire division out of Milwaukee has come and provided plenty of hot coffee and donuts. The assistance came from local areas. Mr. Ron Weiss, for example, brought a trailer up there that we could use as command post. The cooperation and effort from every aspect has been a uniquely gratifying experience to see this type of effort being put forth. Very, very cooperative. Very level heads existed throughout the entire night.
How is the emergency government plan working? I know you and city government plan week in and week out for providing services when people need support at times like this. And how is your planning going along, and what procedures do you expect to be following here next week in the continuing cleanup operation?
I will have to get back to you on that. We will be meeting this afternoon to evaluate situation and the cleanup. Again, I know the public works crews will be working all next week, picking up at the curb. The water and sewer departments are working, turning water shutoffs on. The gas companies are the electric company, all the other utilities are there. Right at this point, I just need to have an afternoon conference with all the people involved.
Any danger from utility lines in that area? I know the Cablevision crews have been working along with power and telephone. How would you assess that? And we look here at a car that's turned on its side.
We're pretty well very fortunate that most of the utilities in this area are underground. Crews have been in there and have been able to shut off the power and gas to the homes which are affected. The water department's been able to find the stop boxes at the curb, and the coordination again is excellent. There's really no danger to the people that are working in there right now.
Being a newer area of the town, it's fortunate, I think, that many of the utility services are underground as opposed to above ground, and that perhaps is helpful in a little bit. Mark Landvater, cameraman, we see a man with a can of beer this morning. I assume he has a good reason for that.
Don, I think you'll recollect a moment ago I mentioned a gentleman who found his 5-month-old son in the front yard. That's the gentleman in that corner in the extreme left hand where there is no second floor is where the baby's crib was. I think he has terribly good reason to enjoy a Pabst Blue Ribbon today. I met him on the street and I said, "Where were you when it happened?" He said, "I was in the basement of what used to be my house there." And he went on to tell me the story of that I repeated to you earlier about not being able to locate his 5-month-old son. There's a truck overturned in his front yard. He's not even sure where it came from. It's just an incredible sight. On his parting from me, the last thing he told me was that, as just about everyone I spoke to did, was that he simply didn't believe it. He didn't know how on earth his son had survived. He didn't have any idea what to expect from one moment to the next as he went looking for him.
Mayor Pick, I think that a storm and disaster like this will have a psychological effect on people. This attitude from those of us who are seeing these pictures for the first time, it's almost a dream. We should be looking here at Italy, where they have disasters, not at West Bend. I would think that the community as a body will have some after effects psychologically from something like this.
Well, I don't know, Don. People, Americans particularly, bounce back from tragedy quite quickly, and I anticipate that that's what's going to happen here. I suppose 6 months from now, people, of course, just like our ice storm a few years ago and the great snowstorms and so forth, people talk about them periodically, but we Americans are rugged, I believe, and we bounce back quickly. I look for no, psychological impact.
Well, I think what I mean is certainly a heightened sense of awareness about weather conditions, a nervousness, if you will, when storms threaten. And probably the police department and the fire department for many months to come will just be completely at readiness as a result of an experience like this. John Meyer, in your work in city government, have you encountered other city officials who have had any thoughts about how a disaster affects a community like this?
Not really, Don. This is something that you have to see.
Mark Landvater, we're looking at a house, people on what used to be their second story. Could you give us some more firsthand experiences that you've had?
The gentleman you just saw tossing an object to his next-door neighbor, except there's no doors anymore to toss through. That gentleman's exclamation when I waved at him was that, holy mackerel, I locked my door so nobody could get in and everything. And in searching around, he found something of interest to both himself and his neighbor. This is the empty field. 2 people were found in that field behind that row of apartments, both of them alive, magically enough. This is the barn on Highway 45, just across from MPTI, as viewed from the backyards of the residents in that area, and the home, both of which are pretty thoroughly demolished. MPTI off in the distance across the highway. Even at 5:30 in the morning, traffic was starting to build on the highway. People were rolling in to take a look. And I found on my last run to the area, the traffic on 45 in West Bend is absolutely terrible. And in my talking to both James Skidmore, the police chief, and the fire chief, and Mr. Meyer, who's present with us today, I would like to repeat their plea to our listeners that they would benefit all concerned if they would look at it here as opposed to there, if they would just stay away from the scene of it.
John Meyer, what will be the policy? Will you try to keep traffic moving? Will you allow people, as we see some of these cars here, to slow down and to sightsee? Are you going to have very stern measures regarding traffic? How will you handle that, do you think?
Well, we will be discussing that again this afternoon. We need to assess where we are with the police chief, the fire chief, and myself and the mayor will be meeting this afternoon and dealing with that situation.
We continue to look at pictures taken this morning at the scene of the tornado damage in West Bend. In a moment, we expect to be showing you scenes from MPTI. Here we see a helicopter flying over, assessing the damage. As we reported at the beginning of the broadcast, Cablevision used an airplane to try to demonstrate from the air what the path looked like. But the wind was so strong and the air so unstable that it was not good pictures that we could show you. It does appear from the air that, much like in pictures that you see from other such disasters, a tornado entered the city in an area where some red barns are located on the northwest corner of the city, and then cut a path right through this subdivision of newer homes, and came right to MPTI, caused damage there, and skipped on behind MPTI and causing further damage. We're coming now to the end of this film, and we're going to be changing to more film in a moment to show you scenes from the MPTI building, which Mayor Pick has described as being almost totally destroyed. A great setback for the MPTI program, which attracted just hundreds of people to continuing education. We are here once again in the Cablevision studios, and on camera here with us is John Meyer. John, I don't think the camera picks it up, but your eyes are red, and you appear to be a man who's very tired and kind of out of sorts in that this has been a very trying night for you. What are your feelings?
I just hope that the people, the citizens of West Bend who have been affected by this disaster are able to see their way back and keep their heads above water, and the city will certainly help them get on that road to success again.
We wish you and city government well as you cope with this disaster, and I want to compliment you for your cooperation with the media and in the process of communicating to the people what has happened to their city. I think we should also point out that a few people have been affected by this, but the rest of the city remains intact. For the rest of the outside world, when they hear that West Bend was hit by a tornado, one begins to think of family and relatives. But to our knowledge, Mayor Pick, everywhere else in West Bend, life went on as usual. In fact, we hear reports that people didn't even know that a tornado had occurred at the time it occurred here in the city. Do you know of anything outside of this area affected by this disaster?
No, I don't really, Don. I think that John and myself and all the rest of the people from the city, the various departments, have been so engrossed and tied up with doing what we could that we just haven't thought about any other part of the city or anything else that's going on.
But no other parts of the city have been affected by the tornado.
Yeah, that's correct.
Are we ready now with the additional footage from MPTI? Let's switch now to more on-the-scene coverage. Mark Landvater, would you come and assist us in describing what we're about to see?
The picture of MPTI you saw in the distance earlier is greatly different from the picture you see up close. The Moraine Park Technical Institute is in, I say, very, very sorry state of repair at the present time. Its entire very, very large front lawn is strewn with lumber and insulation and all sorts of scrap from the homes that were devastated prior. The campus itself is pretty significantly mangled. I walked through the facility and all the way around it. They're busy boarding up around now. I've found that things are going much faster out there than I thought they would when I was up at 2 and 3 this morning, looking things over in the dark and in the rain. I really have found that this is a remarkable thing to me that things are recovering so quickly as they are. You'll see 2 men taking care of a window on the side, and there were some men going in to board up windows in the front. The facility itself is a shambles inside and out. About the only thing that appears saved from damage is the machine shop inside. Most of the machinery inside was evidently covered with some type of a plastic that's been securely taped on to keep them dry in the event water comes in through the roof. Classrooms are filled with insulation and air conditioning ducts, and that's a classroom. The outer wall's gone, or lying in front of it there, the blackboard, and again the outer wall. Windows busted open all the way around the building, literally gutted in the majority of its facility. I think the pictures can tell a better story than I can.
The pictures you are watching are of the MPTI campus. It would appear that the bricks are standing, Mayor Pick, but with that exception, everything else is just in ruination.
Well, you know, the sad part about this series of pictures is something you alluded to a few minutes ago, and that is that the interruption of the classes that this is going to cost. I suppose that some temporary quarters can be located after a few days, but nevertheless, it's certainly going to interrupt the educational process of all those individuals who are enrolled in the vocational school. As far as replacing the bricks and the boards, that's no great problem. It's just one that takes time. Of course, the insurance on the building should adequately take care of the economic loss.
Just a moment ago, we saw a semi-trailer truck, I believe, that MPTI used to store various materials in the back of their building on its side, a great distance from where it originally stood. These pictures inside of MPTI, taken at 11:30 this morning, at the West Bend MPTI campus. I guess I sort of expected, because I saw the building standing there, that everything was okay inside. It's obvious from these pictures that that is not the case.
That's certainly odd. This is the first time I've seen them too, Don. I had no idea. I remember along about 3 or 4 this morning, we were all deeply involved in the residences, and somebody said, how much damage? Well, somebody said part of the roof was blown off. Well, we didn't think too much about it, but brother, when the sun came up and we looked over there, we just couldn't believe it. And now, as I see these inside pictures, it's really disaster.
It's now about 12 hours after the tornado struck, and here is as much of a telltale sign as what has happened. The main sign at the entrance to MPTI toppled over by tornado winds that came to visit the city of West Bend shortly after midnight last night. Mayor Pick, let's once again summarize the human injuries and human damages that you know about as of noon today as a result of this disaster.
Well, in summary, we had 3 fatalities. An 8-year-old young man, son of one of our firefighters, a gentleman approximately 50 years of age, and another lady about 70, they believe. These people have all been identified now. In addition to that, there were about 100 injuries, we estimated. I think about 51 people were taken to the hospital for treatment, and there were 3 individuals in critical condition at one time, although I understand that the injuries have turned out to be not too serious. At least I hope my information is correct.
Are you able, Mayor Pick, to divulge the identity of the 2 adult fatalities?
No, I don't have that information here.
What is next for city government? It's midday on Saturday at the time of the special broadcast. What are your thoughts as to where you go from here?
Well, we'll just continue the cleaning up process until sundown tonight. We've got plenty of police patrol for the night. I understand even the city of Chilton is sending down 10 volunteer policemen. So that is under control. And then tomorrow, of course, as soon as the light comes, we'll have our public works crews continuing their job. And in view of what has been accomplished so far, I look for a speedy completion of the cleanup job. Of course, it's going to take a couple of weeks, all in all, but the streets are already well cleaned, and fortunately, the damage doesn't border Highway 45, for example, and it's all internal, you might say, and it's easier to cordon off those streets, barricade them off, and control the spectators. So we've had little or no looting. I noticed a couple of young men who had a few extra drinks along about 1 o'clock this morning, but that didn't turn out to be a serious problem. So I would say, all in all, and with the governor's promise to treat us as a disaster area and offers of aid from every corner, we're well on our way to getting this thing cleaned up.
Mayor Pick, in completing this broadcast, I must observe that it was during your leadership as mayor of the city that the cable television service came to the city, and we have this unique but sad opportunity this morning to demonstrate how local cable television service can people closer to their community. This has been a unique experience for us to present these actual pictures rather than have to rely on Milwaukee television media for people here in West Bend to see firsthand and without any interruption what has happened to their community. So it's certainly a compliment to your leadership that we have the facility of cable television here in the city to do this morning.
Well, thank you, Don, and it is a unique experience for me. When I was first elected alderman 15 years ago, we had a bi-weekly newspaper, and that was about it. This morning here at the disaster, we had a CBS crew from Chicago with a helicopter. We had all the Milwaukee television stations, of course, and then here we are with our own West Bend station, and I think it's just a wonderful thing, a great addition to our community to have this facility. And I really want to commend you, Don, and your organization for having tackled this thing and with the expertise and the vigor that you've done. When I look around and see other communities fighting over cable TV and battling here, battling there, and I just am so proud that our people here in West Bend went ahead and made the right decision, and here we are. Thank you very much, Don.
We plan to repeat this broadcast at 7 o'clock on Sunday evening to those who might want to see it again or tell their friends about viewing firsthand these on-the-scene pictures of the destruction that has occurred in West Bend as a result of the city's first tornado here in 1981. On behalf of the entire staff of Cablevision who have made this broadcast possible, we thank you for viewing and wish you a good afternoon.